Over 65? This 3-minute workout could be doing more for your body than your daily walk, and most people have no idea. For years, you've been told that walking is the gold standard, safe, simple, effective. And yes, walking has its place. But here's the truth that rarely gets talked about. Walking alone is not enough to stop the physical decline that quietly accelerates after 60. Muscle strength fades, balance weakens, reaction time slows. And it doesn't happen loudly. It happens gradually, until one day, simple movements don't feel so simple anymore. But here's the eye-opening part. Research and clinical observation now show that just a few minutes of the right kind of movement, done correctly, can activate muscles, improve stability, and stimulate your body in ways that walking simply cannot. This isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. In fact, this 3-minute routine targets the exact systems your body relies on to stay independent: your strength, your coordination, and your ability to move confidently without fear. And once you understand how it works, you may never look at exercise the same way again. Most traditional exercise advice given to older adults is built on assumptions that no longer hold up under modern understanding of how the body changes with age. For decades, the message has been simple: stay active, go for walks, keep moving. While that advice sounds sensible, it fails to address a critical reality. The aging body does not respond to movement in the same way it did at 30 or even 50. Continuing to follow outdated guidance can quietly limit strength, mobility, and long-term independence without you even realizing it. After the age of 60, the body undergoes measurable physiological changes. Muscle mass declines in a process known as sarcopenia, and this decline is not just about losing size. It directly affects strength, balance, and metabolic health. At the same time, the nervous system becomes less efficient at activating muscles quickly and effectively. This means that slow, repetitive, low-intensity movements, like casual walking, may maintain basic activity levels, but do very little to challenge or rebuild what is being lost. What most conventional advice ignores is the principle of stimulus. The body only adapts when it is given a reason to adapt. Without sufficient challenge, muscles are not prompted to grow stronger, balance mechanisms are not refined, and coordination does not improve. Simply put, doing more of what feels easy may keep you moving, but it does not protect you from decline. This is where the gap in traditional recommendations becomes not just outdated, but potentially misleading. There is also a misplaced emphasis on duration over effectiveness. Older adults are often encouraged to spend longer periods exercising under the belief that more time equals better results. In reality, the body responds far more to the quality and type of movement than the number of minutes spent doing it. Short, intentional, and properly structured activity can activate more muscle fibers, improve joint stability, and stimulate the nervous system in ways that extended low-effort exercise cannot achieve. Another overlooked factor is the importance of multi-directional strength and stability. Real-life movement is not linear. It involves shifting weight, reacting to imbalance, and controlling the body in unpredictable situations. Traditional advice like walking primarily trains forward motion in a controlled environment, leaving critical aspects of movement underdeveloped. This is one reason why individuals who walk regularly can still experience falls or struggle with sudden changes in direction. What is needed is a shift in perspective. Exercise for older adults should not be about simply staying busy or filling time with activity. It must be strategic, targeted, and designed to directly counteract the specific declines associated with aging. This includes engaging muscles with enough intensity to preserve strength, challenging balance systems to maintain stability, and incorporating movements that require coordination and control. The truth is, the body remains highly adaptable even in later years, but only when it is given the right signals. Relying on outdated advice keeps those signals too weak to create meaningful change. When the approach is adjusted, when exercise becomes purposeful rather than passive, the results can be profound. Strength improves, confidence returns, and the risk of losing independence is significantly reduced. Understanding this changes everything. It shifts the focus away from doing what is familiar and toward doing what is effective. And once that shift is made, the idea that long, low-intensity routines are enough begins to fade, replaced by a more powerful realization: small, targeted actions done consistently and correctly have the ability to transform how the body feels, moves, and performs at any age. Muscle loss after the age of 60 is not a distant possibility. It is an active, ongoing process that accelerates with each passing year unless it is deliberately challenged. This is not simply about appearance or reduced physical capacity. It is about the very foundation of independence. Muscle is what allows you to stand up from a chair without effort, to steady yourself when you lose balance, to carry weight safely, and to move with confidence through everyday life. When it begins to decline, everything built upon it becomes less reliable. What makes this decline particularly dangerous is how quietly it happens. There is no sudden moment when strength disappears. Instead, it fades gradually, often masked by routine. You may still be able to perform daily tasks, but they begin to feel slightly harder. Movements take a little more effort. Fatigue sets in faster. These subtle shifts are often dismissed as normal aging, when in reality they are clear signals that the body is losing its muscular support system. The critical factor most people overlook is that muscle does not simply disappear because of age alone. It disappears because it is no longer being used in a way that forces it to stay. The body is efficient. It does not maintain tissue that it believes is unnecessary. If muscles are not challenged with enough intensity, the body begins to reduce them, conserving energy and resources. This is why low-effort activities, even when performed regularly, fail to stop the process. They do not provide a strong enough signal to preserve or rebuild what is being lost. Intensity, in this context, does not mean strain or risk. It means engaging the muscle in a way that requires effort beyond what feels completely comfortable. It is the difference between simply moving and truly activating. When a muscle is challenged, even for a short period, it responds by strengthening its fibers, improving its ability to contract, and enhancing communication with the nervous system. This response is what slows, and in many cases partially reverses, the effects of age-related muscle decline. There is also a deeper biological response that occurs when muscles are properly stimulated. Hormonal signals associated with repair and growth are activated. Circulation improves, delivering oxygen and nutrients more efficiently. The nervous system becomes sharper, improving coordination and reaction time. These are not minor benefits. They are essential functions that directly impact how safely and effectively the body operates. Another overlooked reality is that muscle strength is directly tied to balance and stability. When muscles weaken, the body loses its ability to correct itself during unexpected movements. A simple misstep, a slight shift in weight, or an uneven surface becomes more dangerous because the body no longer has the strength to respond quickly. This is why maintaining muscle is not just about strength, it is about protection. Short, targeted efforts can be remarkably effective when applied correctly. The body does not require long periods of activity to respond. What it requires is a clear, consistent signal that the muscles are needed. Even brief moments of focused engagement, when done with proper form and intent, can activate a significant portion of muscle fibers, reinforcing their function and slowing the rate of decline. The key is consistency combined with purpose. Sporadic effort produces minimal results, but regular, intentional activation sends a powerful message to the body to maintain and strengthen its muscular system. Over time, this builds resilience. Movements become easier, stability improves, and the risk of injury decreases. Ignoring this process allows muscle loss to continue unchecked, gradually reducing capability and increasing vulnerability. Addressing it directly, with the right level of challenge, changes the trajectory entirely. It shifts the body from a state of passive decline to one of active preservation and improvement. And that shift, once established, becomes one of the most important factors in maintaining independence and quality of life as the years continue forward. Long walks have long been promoted as the cornerstone of staying healthy in later life, and while they do provide benefits for circulation and general mobility, relying on walking alone creates a false sense of security. It gives the impression that enough is being done, when in reality, critical physical systems are being left undertrained and increasingly vulnerable. Walking is a low-impact, repetitive movement that primarily engages the same muscles in the same pattern over and over again. The body quickly adapts to this pattern, and once that adaptation occurs, the level of challenge drops significantly. What once required effort becomes routine, and when the effort decreases, so does the body's need to improve. This is where the limitation begins. Maintenance replaces progress, and over time, even maintenance begins to decline. One of the most important aspects of physical health after 60 is strength, particularly in the lower body and core. These muscles are responsible for stabilizing the body, supporting joints, and generating the force needed for everyday actions like standing, climbing stairs, or recovering from a loss of balance. Walking does not sufficiently challenge these muscles to make them stronger. It uses them, but it does not push them beyond their current capacity. Without that push, there is no reason for the body to reinforce or rebuild. Balance is another critical factor that walking fails to fully address. True balance is not simply the ability to move forward in a straight line. It involves controlling the body in multiple directions, responding to sudden shifts, and maintaining stability when conditions are less than ideal. Walking, especially on flat, predictable surfaces, does not train the body to handle these situations. It lacks the variability and challenge needed to sharpen the systems responsible for keeping you upright and steady. There is also the issue of reaction time, which becomes increasingly important with age. The ability to respond quickly to an unexpected movement or obstacle can mean the difference between staying upright and experiencing a fall. Walking at a steady pace does little to train this ability. It does not require sudden adjustments, quick corrections, or rapid muscle activation. As a result, the body's responsiveness continues to slow, even in individuals who walk regularly. Another limitation lies in the intensity of effort. Walking, particularly at a comfortable pace, does not create enough resistance to stimulate meaningful muscular or neurological adaptation. The body is capable of far more than it is being asked to do, and when it is not challenged, it gradually reduces its capacity. This is not a failure of walking itself, but rather a misunderstanding of what walking can and cannot accomplish. What often goes unnoticed is that many individuals who rely solely on walking still experience declines in strength, balance, and confidence over time. They may remain active, but activity alone is not the same as targeted development. Without specific movements designed to challenge different muscle groups and movement patterns, key areas continue to weaken beneath the surface. The solution is not to abandon walking, but to recognize its limitations and stop treating it as a complete strategy. Walking should be viewed as one piece of a larger approach, not the foundation of it. It supports general movement and cardiovascular health, but it must be complemented by exercises that directly address strength, stability, and coordination. When the body is exposed to varied and purposeful movement, it begins to respond differently. Muscles are activated more fully, joints are supported more effectively, and the nervous system becomes more engaged. This creates a level of resilience that walking alone cannot provide. It prepares the body not just for movement, but for the unexpected challenges that come with daily life. Understanding this distinction is essential. It shifts the mindset from simply staying active to actively preserving function. And once that shift is made, it becomes clear that walking, while valuable, is only a starting point, not the complete solution for maintaining strength, balance, and independence in later years. Short, structured routines are often underestimated because they appear too simple to be effective, yet this assumption overlooks how the body truly responds to well-designed movement. The length of time spent exercising is not the primary driver of results. What matters is how effectively the muscles, joints, and nervous system are engaged during that time. When movement is intentional and precisely targeted, even a few minutes can produce a level of activation that far exceeds what is achieved during longer, unfocused activity. The body does not measure effort in minutes, it responds to stimulus. When a movement requires coordination, control, and a degree of effort that challenges the muscles, the body immediately recognizes that demand. Muscle fibers are recruited more fully, including those that remain largely inactive during low-intensity activity. This deeper level of engagement is what triggers adaptation. It sends a clear signal that strength must be maintained, stability must improve, and the system must become more efficient. In contrast, extended periods of low-effort movement often fail to reach this threshold. The body settles into efficiency, using the minimum amount of energy required to complete the task. While this conserves energy, it also limits progress. The muscles are not pushed to respond, the joints are not stabilized under meaningful load, and the nervous system is not challenged to refine coordination. Over time, this leads to stagnation rather than improvement. Structured routines are different because they are built with purpose. Each movement is selected to activate specific muscle groups and to challenge the body in ways that reflect real-life demands. This may include controlled transitions, weight shifts, or movements that require balance and coordination. These elements force the body to engage multiple systems at once, creating a more comprehensive response in a shorter period of time. Another critical advantage of short, focused routines is their ability to maintain intensity without fatigue becoming the limiting factor. Longer sessions often lead to a drop in effort as the body tires, reducing the overall effectiveness of the activity. In a shorter routine, effort can remain consistent from start to finish. Every movement is performed with intention, ensuring that the quality of the exercise does not decline. There is also a neurological component that makes these routines particularly effective. When movements require attention, control, and precision, the brain becomes actively involved in the process. This strengthens the connection between the brain and the muscles, improving coordination and reaction time. These improvements extend beyond exercise, influencing how the body performs during everyday activities. Consistency is another factor that gives short routines a distinct advantage. Because they require minimal time, they are easier to repeat daily. This regular exposure reinforces the adaptations being created, allowing the body to build and maintain strength over time. Long, demanding sessions are often performed less frequently, which limits their overall impact despite the greater time investment. The effectiveness of these routines lies in their ability to combine multiple benefits into a concentrated period of effort. They challenge strength, enhance balance, and improve coordination simultaneously. This integrated approach is far more aligned with how the body functions in real life, where movements rarely occur in isolation. What becomes clear is that duration alone does not determine value. A longer session is not inherently better if it lacks the elements required to stimulate change. A shorter, well-structured routine that targets the right systems can produce meaningful improvements in strength, stability, and overall function. Recognizing this shifts the focus away from how long exercise lasts and toward how effective it is. It removes the barrier of time and replaces it with a more practical and powerful approach. When movement is purposeful, even a few minutes can create a significant impact, reinforcing the idea that it is not the length of the effort that matters, but the quality and precision with which it is applied. Consistency is the force that determines whether the body declines gradually or adapts continuously. It is not the intensity of a single effort or the duration of an occasional workout that shapes long-term health, but the repeated signals the body receives day after day. The human body is highly responsive to patterns. When it detects regular demand, it responds by maintaining and strengthening the systems required to meet that demand. When that demand is inconsistent or absent, it begins to scale those systems back. What many fail to recognize is that the body does not store fitness in the way it stores fat or energy. Strength, balance, and coordination are active qualities. They must be used regularly to be preserved. A long workout performed once or twice a week may feel productive, but it leaves large gaps where the body receives no signal to maintain its capabilities. During those gaps, the natural processes of decline continue, uninterrupted. Short, daily actions change this dynamic completely. Even a few minutes of intentional movement, when repeated consistently, creates a steady stream of stimulation. This continuous input reinforces muscular engagement, supports joint stability, and keeps the nervous system actively involved. The body begins to recognize that these functions are required on a regular basis, and in response, it works to preserve and improve them. There is also a compounding effect that occurs with consistency. Each small effort builds on the previous one. The improvements may not be immediately dramatic, but they accumulate over time in a way that becomes undeniable. Movements feel smoother, strength becomes more reliable, and balance improves without conscious effort. This progression is not the result of a single breakthrough moment, but of repeated, deliberate action. Inconsistent effort, on the other hand, creates a cycle of temporary improvement followed by regression. The body begins to adapt, but before those adaptations can be reinforced, the stimulus is removed. As a result, progress stalls and in many cases, reverses. This pattern can lead to frustration, as effort does not appear to translate into lasting results. The issue is not the effort itself, but the lack of continuity. Another critical aspect of consistency is its impact on confidence. When movement becomes a daily practice, the body feels more predictable and reliable. This sense of control reduces hesitation and fear, particularly when performing activities that require balance or coordination. Confidence is not built through occasional success, but through repeated dependable performance. Consistency also allows for better control over intensity and safety. Short daily routines reduce the likelihood of overexertion because the body is not being pushed to extremes in a single session. Instead, it is being guided through manageable, repeatable efforts that gradually build capacity. This approach is particularly important for older adults, where the goal is not to exhaust the body, but to strengthen it in a sustainable way. The simplicity of short routines removes one of the most common barriers to exercise: time. When the requirement is only a few minutes, it becomes far easier to integrate into daily life. This removes the need for motivation to engage in long sessions and replaces it with a habit that feels achievable and sustainable. Over time, this habit becomes a defining factor in how the body functions. The difference between occasional effort and consistent action becomes increasingly visible. One leads to gradual decline masked by brief periods of activity, while the other creates a steady upward trend in strength, stability, and overall capability. The body does not demand perfection, but it does require repetition. When it receives clear, consistent signals, it responds with adaptation and resilience. This is what transforms small daily actions into powerful drivers of long-term health, proving that consistency is not just important, it is the deciding factor in how the body performs and maintains independence over time.